Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Huntsville chapter of the International Game Developers Association. We haven't done one of these since April 2011. And that one was a panel of people from big studios where we opened the floor, questions to people who were wanting to know what was it like to work for a big game studio. Tonight the focus is going to be on Huntsville independent games. We have 4 independent game companies that have products that are going to demo for us tonight. Those are Alien Labs, Minions of Steel, Pixelary Squared, where's Falco? Falco's gone. Elysian Shadows, and Word. I don't know what Randy's planning to present, but he typically comes in fairly close. Sorry?
Oh, he's supposed to be here.
He's supposed to be here. He's presenting supposedly.
That's why you guys.
We'll see. How many of you have been to an IGDA meeting before? Most of you. I've actually been running this chapter since 2006, off and on, because it went inactive for a little while. And I guess I should ask, how many of you are paying members? Okay, good deal. The guys in the back. I'm assuming everybody here likes games. How many of you are interested in developing games? Pretty much everyone? I don't know, we've had people come here just like playing games. Okay, so we have a good crowd there. And I know most of you, but of those I don't know, how many of you are developing a game currently? How many of you want to run your own game studio? Okay. Nobody give out this answer. What do game companies do? Specifically do.
It's on me.
Behind you.
Oh,
What do you think game companies do?
They make entertainment.
Wrong.
No.
They sell entertainment. That thing on the end, company, indicates that you're going to have tax ID, you're going to pay money to the feds, the state, the county, the city, benefits, insurance, all that. And if you're going to, I bring this up all the time, that if you're going to start a game company, you got to think of the business aspect. Otherwise, it's just a real expensive hobby. But I encourage you to do it. It's just, see a lot of them come and go. All right, with that, let's dive in. I'm going to do all the boring stuff tonight. Let these guys do the exciting stuff. All right, so what is IGDA? It stands for the International Game Developers Association. It is a global network of loosely connected game advocacy fiefdoms. They each have their own culture. We are loosely tied to, the giant umbrella, which would be corporate, I guess. They don't give us much guidelines. We can pretty much do whatever we want. The culture here in Huntsville tends to be fairly military. The few guidelines they have given us are things like you have to have 3 members on the board. You have to do meetings every month. And there's a handful of others that are in the manual. But aside from that, you get to do your own thing. As I mentioned, advocacy. Typically, these chapters go out, they identify all the gamers, try to get them all together in meetings, functions, parties, whatnot, and try to help them succeed. They do this mainly, the gatherings through monthly meetings, and that is a requirement. We can do more than monthly meetings. That is what we insist upon. Networking, again, meeting people, but you can also meet people from other chapters. If you're a paying member and you go to, say, trade shows, you get invited to the IGDA parties. We do meet other chapter heads and people from various big game companies. And lastly, there are some benefits. And you might say, well, what are those benefits? To get them, you got to pay a whopping $48 a year. And I say, well, I'm looking at this list, and it's like, well, I can come to meetings for free. I can do the networking for free. I don't have to be a member. Advocacy, pretty much everything in here I can do without paying, except for the benefits. So your benefits, what you get for $48 a year, is this. Your name, plastic card.
Wait, I don't have one of those. I think.
And you get discounts on those. Mainly books and journals, trade shows, things like E3, Austin Games Conference, Serious Game Conference. They all give you sometimes up to 50% off if you're an IGDA member. And the big one, tuition. And where are your areas? Jonathan here is like our poster child for someone who has really benefited from IGDA. DeVry University will give you 10% off your tuition. $48 a year. I don't know what tuition is these days. I'm sure it's thousands of dollars, and 10% of that is going to be. Got anything to say about that?
I got to save money, I guess. That's all it's that. I mean, I did go to a lot of
savings.
Sorry?
Was it a big savings?
Oh yeah, for me it was a big savings. Like to the point where when I forgot to renew it one year, I noticed it. Like I was just like, whoa, wait a second, why do I have to pay this extra money? So I mean, for me it's a big thing because DeVry was expensive in Dallas. So.
I hate to come to UAH and advocate DeVry University, but you know, the UAH could kick in a discount for game developers. IGDA also provides resources for helping you get crowdfunding. You can put your videos and links up on their exclusive sites where people troll, investors troll. And they also provide group health insurance on there. There's so many members, you can get pretty good rates because you have such a big group. I don't know anybody who does it, but you need it. Good. A little bit on the meetings. These are just the types of things we do. We've done quite a few post-mortems in the past where we evaluate a game that has come and gone, perhaps done well or died, and the story behind the inner workings of that company and what happened. Panels. The last panel we put together, as I mentioned at the beginning, was people who work at big studios like EA and whatnot. What was it like to work there? Just a QA. We've done a lot of technology demonstrations in the past. We've had anything from game engines to user-created content. We've had NVIDIA come out, people from Microsoft come out and tell us about their latest shader tag. Blah, blah. We'll do some of that in the future as well. Project demonstrations, that's what we're going to do tonight. Done quite a few of those in the past. And then parties, basically. For those of you who don't know, there's also an independent game developers meeting the first Monday of every month at the Nook, Legal Age. Go there and hang out and talk about games. All right, a little bit on the chapter history. It's established in 2000 by one of the board members, Randy, who hasn't showed up tonight, but he will be presenting, hopefully, if he shows up. It's kind of an interesting story. In 2001, I was at a company called Panavision, and my two best artists, came to my office and said, hey, we went to this IGDA meeting last night, and there's a company in town that's doing a massively multiplayer online role-playing. And it was just all hyped about it, and I was too. I had never heard of it. So I started going to the meetings. That's how I met Randy and whatnot. Then I ended up, about 2 months later, those guys walked into my office and resigned. And they went to the massively multiplayer company. And then eventually I went to that company, and Jerry was at that company, and quite a few people here in town went to that company. Point is, we all went into this company, and we were hosting IGDA meetings with Randy. And then we went into Crunch Mode, where we were just working night and day on that game. And, well, we quit hosting. all the time. People who used to come, a lot of people weren't showing up anymore because we were working all the time, and that chapter went inactive. I ended up moving down to Palm Beach. Randy moved down to Tampa, I think. I'll say Petersburg. And chapter died. So fast forward, down in Palm Beach, that project, Massive People Player Game, was canceled. I start my own company while I'm down there, and eventually I decided to come back to Huntsville. The company was doing all right, but I had a wife and kids. I wanted to get something more secure in Huntsville, where the family was. Come back, and I needed a network and meet people. So first thing I thought is, hey, I'll try to resurrect the IGDA chapter. And at that time, Nathan was at, no, he was at Digital Fusion.
Yeah.
And he was running the North Alabama 3D users group. We put those two groups together and resurrected the chapter. And we ran that chapter, this chapter, from 2006 to 2011, pretty regularly. Lots and lots of presentations and lots of pizza at the UH Science Department over in the UMD building. And then the same thing happened. Got funding, started up another game company, sucked up all the talent, all the people that were going to these meetings, went to crunch mode. And myself and Nathan were the chairs. We didn't have time to see our families. I asked at that time for other people to take over the chapter. And nobody wanted it. And I remember asking Falco if he wanted to take it over. And he's like, nah, man, I've kind of got my own thing going. So it died. We went inactive. Until, about 2 months ago, Falco calls me up. He's like, hey, you never talked about taking over the chapter years back. Might want to think about, let's get that going. Okay, I know how to do that. About 3 days later, we had gotten our 3 members that we needed as requirements to start the chapter. That was myself, Brent was vice chair, and Jonathan as treasurer. That's all you need to be an emergent chapter. Well, about that time, I was checking to see who had IGDA memberships, and I found Tim, who had just left the game studio, was a member, but he hadn't moved his membership from here to Texas. He went to Santa. So I called him up, and he tells me about the independent game developers meeting, which is Jesse and Charlotte and I. We came down and met them, and again, we decided to merge these groups. We didn't really merge it. We're still going to do the, hey, let's hang out every year, the first Monday of every month. But at that time, I extended them an invitation to be on the board. So we have, well, I'll get to a chart on the board. The board. Yep, all right, so I'm the chairman of the board, Brent, vice chair, Jonathan, treasurer. I was all positions. So I brought on Steve, he's former Zynga and has a great story to tell. Again, Jesse and Charlotte, who are representing tonight, we're running the Indie Game Developers Association, have their own game company. Falco and Tyler from Listen Shadows, another independent game company. Jerry, known him for years, another independent game company. We start to see a pattern. And Randy, another independent game company. So IGDA holds my heart, at least. It's the indie developer lifestyle, if you will, that I think embodies what IGDA is all about. Some of us get paid to develop games professionally. The indie developer typically ends up paying to have a game. That is true for most people here. Lastly, Taryn runs, there he is, the Speeding One Esports. He's co-sponsoring us tonight. Thank you, Taryn, for having us up and providing this wonderful group. All right, here's the history of game development in Huntsville, as far as I know, and I should know since we've been running the chapter a while. In a diagram, I'm going to go over it a little bit with pretty pictures. It all kind of started way back in 1999. I could even go back further, 1997. At that time, the internet bubble was really happening. People were just throwing around money and buying companies right and left. And that was the case with Thermal Information Solutions. We formed a company that spun out of that with the express purpose of making online video games. And their shtick was taking actual sporting events, like a race, and allowing you to go online 20 minutes after that sporting event and to come into a 3D world with the same data that was recorded during the event and allow you to play against it. That was a pretty big deal. They were going to do digital distribution, really hadn't been done at that time. Download your product over the internet. Problem was nobody was really used to doing that, and it didn't really work out. A little bit after that, at that time, money was flowing. We got, I think, $6 million first funding round, and then another $2 million. And I left. It went on a little further, and then eventually we chapter 11. But I'll do that on another chart. At about that time, Word, which is Randy's company, while I was off going down this train of real high tech, doing massively multiplayer games and stuff, Randy had a different plan. He was going to do mobile games. Simple, easy to execute, get them cranking out, and where all these companies that I've been in have all come and gone, he has remained solvent the entire time with his plan. Animation was run by Bobby Wells and Brian Mitchell. When they went bankrupt, they formed Blue Street Studios, and then they spun out two different companies. One of them being Third Day Games, which did basically Bible games, and the other one which did music-powered games. The first one they did was Kiss Game. And the reason they made two companies is because you really can't have Kings and Satan's service alongside your Bible game. So they broke the two. And they're still going. I think they're using Unity. They publish for iPad and iPhone. Following, well, part of the reason the Animation went bankrupt is because we got funding through Mutable Realms, and I sucked all the talent out of that place, leaving them with like 4 people. Mutable Realms went on and made that massively multiplayer game. And then World of Warcraft came out right before it released, and I didn't want to release. I thought it would be like Dan hanging out with the Beatles. At the time, I thought he was insane. He just spent lots of millions of dollars. But he didn't want to incur the operational cost and whatnot, only to have it crushed by the Warcraft. As we've all seen what happened there on Sony, EverQuest 2, most people didn't make it. So, in hindsight, he was probably right. When Mutable Realms went down, a lot of people left and went to Electronic Arts, and then someone at Blizzard and 2 other companies. I wandered in the desert for a while and formed Blossom Studios. We made one commercial game, a whole bunch of content, gaming company. And then, same investor as the massively multiplayer game propped us up again for Rocket City Studios. Around 2002, the Army Game Studio was born, not here, and eventually relocated to Huntsville. And it goes on to this day. I'm out there, I don't really represent them in any way, but a lot of people in this room work at the Army Game Studio. And then a few others, just kind of, if you'll notice the kind of timeline here, it's like late 2000, then there's like a dearth of nothing, and then all of a sudden you got a whole bunch of things coming up around 2009. So I find it interesting. Hathaway Studios was making a massively multiplayer steampunk game. That was of great interest to me when I was at Rocket City Studios. I actually reached out and talked to them. The owner of Rocket City Studios considered basically buying all their tech. And we were planning before doing the zombie game to do steampunk game. But we changed courses. I'm going to get off this chart and move over to pretty pictures. Looking at that same chart a different way, with just a lot of imagery. Animation, like I said, it made a bunch of games, and they released, and some of them sold. None of them were big hits. Some of them didn't sell. Some of them they got sued for and went out of business. The first one, Indie Net Race Live, was actually conceived in the company before Animation spun out, and wrapped up after we spun out. And we did sell it, put it in a box. We sold it. We sold about 3,000 copies at, I guess it was about $15. That's not a lot of money if you do the math. And we had a lot of challenges in that it had, back then we didn't have like just a handful of graphic card manufacturers. We had a whole bunch of different ones, a whole bunch of sound cards, and it was very difficult to get your product to run on each one of those, with all the little quirks. So we spent a lot of time with that. Following that, Animation NASCAR Challenge, that released, and I think it stayed up for maybe a week before the people we were teaming with, Infogrames, at the time the largest game company in the world, turned around and said, you have to cease and desist. They wouldn't tell us why, but we think it was like the stickers on the cars and whatnot were not right. They then turned around and sued Animation, and that went on. Virtual Invasion, this actually started before Animation, that other company, before we spun out. It is an arcade game, networked, multiplayer, augmented reality game. We have these view scopes where you look through it, and you see what you see. You see your friends in an arcade, and then as you pan up, the world goes away, and it goes up into space, and there's ships and aliens, and you have to defend against those, but you also have to defend against your buddy who might be across the room in an augmented reality space. And that's just an old screenshot. We put those out at several casinos out in Las Vegas. There were some other projects. I don't have any imagery from it. It was like 2000. Live at the Park was an online website that had all kinds of flash games to entertain kids. Animation WWF Wrestling was in development when they went down. Animation SEC Football did release. Didn't have a box on the shelves. It was really bad. How bad was it? I used to get calls on my other line for the arcade game, hate death threats. But they couldn't find out how to get a hold of us any other way. Okay, they changed that number. And then I left and went over to Mutable Realms, took a bunch of people. They went on to make Gods and Generals, which was released through Turner right after the movie came out. And that went down in history as at the time, the worst game ever made. Yeah. We're interactive. Randy's not here to talk about it. All I can say is he's made a lot of games over the years and has kept them going. He's got 6 of them out there right now on the App Store. So I'm doing this chronologically in time, as you can notice, following that chart. Mutable Realms, that was the massively multiplayer game. We worked on that for 4 years of crunch, pretty much, and never released it. It was beautiful. And so people were in this room. Did I say something? No? Keep going. The name of that game was Wish. It did very well in the press. It was like one of the top 5 most anticipated massively multiplayer games. Like I said, World of Warcraft was at the top of that list at the time, and as soon as it came off the list and released, everybody else died. Here are a few scenes, I'll just burn through them. Oh, here's an interesting point. Anybody ever heard of Speed Tree? Speedgrass? Okay. I actually contracted them to develop Speedgrass and to develop Speed Tree. At that time, Speed Tree was designed for architectural renderings. And I put them and Numerical Designs, who did Gabriel, together, and they were sort of pitting some money, like $5,000. They developed the real-time Speed Tree and another $5,000 real-time Speedgrass. And they got to keep the tech and get to distribute it, and we got it first. This little trivia. Just whipping through here. It was a really big game. 200 cities, thousands of creatures. The shtick was we're going to put everybody in one world. Up until that time, there was, like every class had 52 servers. And if you want to do live story content, a different, like Dungeon Masters, you'd have 52 versions of it. So if you put everybody in the same server, 100,000 people, whatever it is, then you can have live story content one time, and it affects the whole world. And that's where we're heading. Medieval fantasy. Right. About that time, we were about a year into Wish, America's Army, really kick it off. They were probably the most pro game in this town. I'm not associated with that product. I work at the studio with sort of most people here. It's its own thing. Beautiful. Something I didn't say at the beginning was that all these games that I've been talking about have been for actual companies that have funding and are commercial games. Huntsville does a lot more than just commercial games, of course, they do a lot of serious games. And I figured we can address that in a different meeting. That could be a pretty long meeting. A lot of it. Everybody's getting there. Also Studios. That was my company when I came back from Florida. We did have, started out as selling content to game companies, basically reselling content from a massively multiplayer game. The owner he had all these assets, millions of everything, hundreds of animals, monsters, buildings. He said, Jamie, I don't want to deal with this. I'm a millionaire. Go sell. I'll give 10%. So I'm calling up all these companies and got some bites, sold them some stuff, made some money. I'm going to start developing content for those games. And then eventually I had guys say, hey, can you build games? Yes, we can. So we did. Valhire is we went through about 3 iterations of this, 3 different game engines. This one was a death match. It did get released on Xbox new games. It did not sell well. It was pretty. You could fly, or glide, really. Music Power Games. All right, so when Anavision collapsed, as I mentioned, the 2 guys there and Jeremy went off and formed Music Power Games. They got a lot of out there now. I don't know how well it is. I don't think it's doing that well because we're always looking for investors. Half Boy Studios. All right, so there's the gap right there. This is about 2002. We're up there. The next thing I see emerge as a company, Half Boy Studios. This is February 2009. And I already mentioned they've been very ambitious. A massively multiplayer steampunk game, air-to-air combat. Great concept. And I reached out to those guys. They were working like Falcons were. Right? They were working with Miltech during the day, trying to build a massively multiplayer online role-playing game about it. Pretty ambitious. They had a lot of good concept art, and I never saw anything 3D come out of them. And then by 2012, there was just no more anything else. I probably ought to call it that, to be honest with you. Enter Rocket City Studios, another thing I could be associated with. Rocket City Studios is no longer in Huntsville. It finished its game up last May. They went on to Greenlight. They just got greenlit 2 months ago. But before that happened, they decided to release for iPad. They released that in February. They did a big media blitz. They got great media press. 4 out of 5 stars on Metacritic. It was in the top 10 apps on the App Store for about 3 weeks, and then lost it. They're supposed to release tomorrow. After they got greenlit, you don't just get right on Steam. You have to integrate with Steam and do a few things to make them happy. they finally get to release on Steam, supposedly tomorrow. I mean, it's on the site, but it's also in the middle of the summer sale. I heard there may be an issue there. We'll see. It'll eventually come out. Here's some pretty pictures of Second Chance Heroes. It's a cooperative 4-player ISO zombie alien robot killing zany game. A lot of fun. Pretty proud of that one. Then out of the woodwork comes Saltfish Entertainment. This guy reached out to me, put up the LinkedIn site. Well, re-resurrected the LinkedIn site about 2 months ago. I don't know much about them. They haven't come out. I've looked at these changes. They seem to focus mainly on Android games. And they did some app for, not a game, but some app for the Madison Student Festival. This is where I'm getting off stage. Time to see what this evening's all about, which is the indie developers. We don't have to go in this order. This order, I told Karen I gave her the names. Let's do it.
Okay. We are Alien Labs. There's 4 members. David and I are the designers, also the financial people who are financing the development of it. It's very, very indie. We're using a couple of programmers from Romania to do programming for us. I do everything that you see in here. I do all of the 2D artwork, the rigging and animating. I also do a lot of promoting, all of the talks that we go to, everything that we build for marketing for the internet. I also do, so I wear many hats. We use Unity 3D. We use Subversion and Track on a site called Assembla. Some of you may be familiar with Assembla. Anyway, it's how we keep up with sharing our resources and communicating with each other and doing things like bug tracking, testing, and ticketing. And it's all done using Assembla, Subversion, and Track. So the name of our game is Minions of Steel, MOS for short. We are on green light at the moment. So, next slide. I wanted to talk about something a little bit different. Of course, I wanted to hit some of the points that Mr. Moffett wanted us to hit, which is what tech do you use and what do you use for asset tracking. And I've done that, but something that's really, I guess, aggravating me at the moment is Steam Greenlight. This process that we have to go through. And I've charted some of this for you tonight for your amusement and entertainment. So we broke out the green line is us. We're tracking with the top 25 games on Greenlight at the moment, the best that I can tell from the charts. We started out with a bang, getting a lot of those as we first gone on, getting fantastic comments. Of course, one of the things you have to put up with on Steam Greenlight is grievances, trolls, people who will come in and post degrading comments on your site. I've only had 3 of those for Minions of Steel, and they were so inappropriate that I had to delete them. So we don't take kindly to being told to sod off and things like that, and we're just not going to put up with it. So we delete those comments immediately. Like I said, we have only had 3, so it hasn't been a huge issue. Next slide. Did it change? I think it did. Yes. Okay. So now we're in day 3. We're tracking with the top 50. We're gaining a lot of Ask Later votes. And if you'll notice on the chart that in the top 50, they're not charting any Ask Later votes. I don't know if they're not getting any or if Steam is just not plotting those. But we already have 144 of those, and 1,400 no votes and 1,300 yes votes. Now this column is fairly new. I've had a game on Steam Greenlight before, and they didn't manifest this particular column of information at the time. But now they do an average of the top 50 games. This is fantastic because you can now sort of see how well you're doing. And as you see here, 47% of the top 50 games are yes votes and 53% are no votes. So I'm not overly concerned with the 49% no votes. It looks like we're tracking right in there with the top 50. Also, we had a little bit of a spike, so we're sort of leading the pack here. And the best that I can tell about this chart is it's a snapshot of the top 100 games. So here's your top 100 game, your number 5 game. We're actually tracking in the top 5 on this chart. So then you'll notice this thing. This is what has me confused and bothered. How on earth did this particular game, who started out below us, in 2 days garner thousands of votes? Enough, next chart please, enough votes to be greenlit. And then 2 more games the next day. Boom, thousands of votes. Next chart. So I began to plot some of this and start asking questions, and I identified the reason for these particular spikes. If you'll notice, now at day 13 of the campaign, we've begun to level off just like every other normal game in the green light process. We still have these spikes hanging around. So this guy had 969 votes at the same point where we had several thousand votes. In 2 days, he went to 7,350 votes. Now has 8,765 votes, less than 25 days into his campaign. So how is this possible? Next slide. There was a group on Steam that had 70,000 members in it. And what they were doing was manipulating the yes votes for the green light campaigns. So they would go out and scope out games that they thought would do this and ask them for 10,000 free copies of the game, 20,000 free copies of the game. They then post that back to their community that if they vote yes on that game, they're guaranteed a free copy of that game. So the community is buying. You're buying the yes vote from the community. Now this is good for people who can afford to give up 20,000 free copies of their game. But as somebody who's expecting to at least get our money back, it's very, very difficult for us to say, okay, here's 20,000 free copies of the game. So all of your companies that have to pay the light bill and a mortgage and fund their children's college and future automobile crashes, it's going to be difficult to hang in there and get those votes. I finally identified this as a fact because the guy that runs this website contacted me a few days into my investigation and asked me for 10,000 free game keys. Well, instead of freaking out on him, like I should have, I engaged him in about a half an hour conversation, just picking up some intel on how all this works. Steam kicked them off, kicked their user group off. So all 70,000 members of that particular group were eradicated from Steam. They have since rebuilt the group off-site and gained back 35,000 members. And this group exists solely to collect free games. They're not interested in the game. If you give them something for free, and if they can have 1,000 games in their inventory and they don't have to pay for it, well, that's their motive. Now, to me, this seriously waters down the value of games that are being delivered to Steam. I don't understand why Steam allows this to continue. One of the thoughts that I had was I would spend 3 days building a little side scroller in Unity, just kill 10 things on the screen, give away 20,000 keys, get greenlit immediately, because once you're greenlit, all subsequent games don't require you to go through that same process. You don't have to go through a green light process for your subsequent games. But this would be a little underhanded of me to do such a thing, even though it's a temptation, and I think it would actually work. So, yes,
Do you know if any of the games they voted for have actually been greenlit? Because
they have.
when they make it to the top
All
100,
of the
then Steam
games that
takes
have
them.
spiked so far have been greenlit, which is annoying, immensely annoying. Powerless to stop it at the moment. Of course, we have no even influence at all over what Valve does, except get the information out there, which is what I'm thinking about doing, setting up a site that exposes this and see what comes of it. Still thinking about it. I'll probably get some opinions from some seasoned folks after the presentation on what they think about this and what, if anything, can be done to stop it.
Well, all indications are that it seems moving away from the greenlight process.
Right. I've heard these rumblings, but I don't have a time frame. Do you have a time frame? Soon.
With Half-Life 3.
Soon, yeah. Right. All right, next slide. So it's time for a little 2-minute video of Minions of Steel. Then I've got a live demonstration of a different game that we'll show you after this. Just double click. Double click. Yeah. So what you're seeing here is a hybrid of a real-time strategy game and a first-person shooter. So the camera's out in God mode, you're in real-time strategy mode, and you're commanding your units just like you would in normal RTS. You can then click on one of those units and take over that unit. It's a little bit different in the way that you take over a unit because you're really projecting your consciousness into that unit. It doesn't have a cockpit. You're not a person inside that unit. You're a consciousness that is controlling that particular robot. So you are the robot. This panel that you see right here is the behaviors panel. So if you wanted to go into that unit and adjust its behaviors, you can do that. One of the things that Mom focuses on is artificial intelligence and robotics. So you can tune each individual minion to respond in certain ways by programming them to do so. And I use the term programming sort of lightly because you're not actually doing any code. You're just selecting some check boxes on how you want that particular minion to behave. We have noticed that when we start, the next slide, talking about programming minions, it turns some of the gaming community off because they think they're going to have to do something complicated. So we dubbed this the behavior system instead of the system where you program your minions. So you can do things like set whether or not you want them to attack statically or dynamically. Attacking dynamically, you lose a little bit of targeting ability. You lose a little bit of accuracy because you're moving around, but you're much less of a sitting duck. So if you're moving around, you're harder to hit, but you're a little less accurate. You can set your minions to target statically. That's where they will acquire a target and stop and shoot very, very accurately and do a lot of damage, but now you're a sitting duck. So it's a trade-off. You may want to program certain types of robots different ways. Some with very, very heavy armor, you may want them to entrench, stop, static, and do static attacks. Some with lighter armor and that are faster movers, you want them to move around and do dynamic attacks. One of my favorite behaviors is kamikaze. So you can assign a behavior to your minion whereby it will, upon its last leg, when its hit points get to a certain point, it will ram itself into an enemy and blow itself up as a last-ditch effort to do damage to the enemy. So you can set kamikaze mode or retreat mode. If you want your minions to retreat, when they get to a certain damage level, they'll retreat back to base, and then repairers will repair them. Or you can have a field repairers that fly out and do that. They'll retreat to a safe distance. Repairers come in and repair them. So there's lots of different parameters you can shoot. You can program your minions to shoot aircraft only, ground troops only, or both. You may have certain weapons that you outfit your units with that do better against aircraft, so you don't really want them wasting those rounds on a ground vehicle, ground robots, so you set those to attack air. A lot of different behaviors that you can set. This is one of our schemes. The slide that you're looking at right here is for a game that we call Genie's Apocalypse. Now, the story behind Moss is man creates AI. AI decides that it would be a glorious thing to kill its creator, kill God, in other words. So it initiates a war against humanity, ends up winning, kills billions of people. This Genie's Apocalypse was designed as a Kickstarter ploy for a Kickstarter campaign, where you pay your $10 for a Kickstarter and you get Genie's Apocalypse immediately. Genie's Apocalypse is a competitive shooter. We have tracking boards that track players by rank, how well they're doing, and if on tournament night you are the #1 ranking player, you win prizes. So for every 500 units of Genie's Apocalypse that will sell, we'll initiate a tournament for that night and we'll give something away. That was sort of our idea for building Genie's Apocalypse as a way to help fund the development for Minions of Steel. And we'll play some of that now. A little more about the backstory. So Genie kills billions of people, and as the remainder of humanity flees the Earth, our scientists reanimate the dead. So now Genie has to fight all those billions all over again in the form of zombies. So the last of humanity leaves, we reanimate the dead, they come back to life again as another last-ditch effort to take Genie down, and now he's stuck here on Earth battling all of those people that he's already killed. And if I can find the shortcut. If anybody sees the shortcut, let me know.
It's 4 columns in from the right, second down. Genie Apocalypse shortcut. One more
From my
column.
right,
One more column. So our left. Right.
Down.
And down one.
There you go.
Somebody muted me. I cheated.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to do that. Projector is set up for that. Let's try. That's right. Looks like that symbol's about in the middle of the screen, so that should work. We have some simple setups for your video cards. Just pick the one you think you might need. Turn some of this up. This syncing going on right. So here we have our leaderboards. just go this way, from the yard, so you can see it. You have a switchy down to the point structure and run through drops. You can check that off and on while we're playing this. And of course, it gets harder and harder as it goes along. This is very, very hard to do. The mouse is pointing that way.
Rain is for you.
So you are using on camera.
I would do that hard way. It's all back.
You have buzzers that come in and grab bodies. Shoot them before they get away with the body. You get extra points.
Better with one. It's all back.
2-minute round. We've got 20 seconds left of this round. You can see our score in your fence up there. We won't get through.
Rain is for you.
Needs to get the spawn faster and faster. At some point, you can get the run through the run. So on the average, around the ground, and shooting the incoming zombies gets harder and harder as it progresses. At some point, you have zombie dogs that come out and attack you. Then we have in the city levels, inside the city levels, as you progress in the round, we'll have zombie police officers that come out and beat you with a stick. They're a little tougher to take down.
It's over.
And you continue this way until things just get into kind of a frantic reaction. You have zombies responding so fast. You have weapons that you're really not dealing with. And you can't sustain anymore. You lose all your lives, and now you're done. You have to check your score at the end of that to see how you rank. We do have the ability to do melee. We've got 7 zombies in the scene right now. Gotta find one. Give her a good bite. Pretty stupid. 7 seconds. There's something funny about realizing
Rain is for you.
You've been listening to
What's next? Vampires? It's me again.
Anyway, that is our gimmick for trying to traffic people to our eventual Kickstarter campaign and trying to collect a little more money to get Moss off the ground. We spent about $65,000 so far on Moss out of our own pockets. Quite honestly, we're saving a ton of money by hiring some Romanian programmers. The salary for programmers over there is about $800 a month, and that's for a really good programmer. So we pay them more than that. So I don't feel like we're cheating them out of anything. They're getting paid very, very well for their economy, and they're doing a fantastic job so far. Have any questions? Sir?
Okay, so this is back to your Steam fiasco.
Yeah.
Is the 10,000 copies, like, how much value is it to be through the green light process? Does that outweigh 10,000 copies?
We
Is that not
don't
close?
know. That's my best answer, because I've never marketed the game, never sold the game. My best judgment is this is bad for Steam. You know, you've got your developers sitting at home, and I don't mean this in any kind of derogatory way, but you're sitting at home with mom and dad, you're making a game, you know, you're just out of high school, whatever, they're 18, they're not going to college yet, they're not really worried about making money or turning this into a capital venture, and so they can afford to give away 20,000 keys. What do they care? But what they're not considering is the folks who are trying to do this for a living, and they're watering down Steam, the delivery of really good games on Steam.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, that sounds mostly like a shakedown. But
Yeah.
like it was just more of what's the value of being through it, because like at that point it's not good.
It's something I've considered. If we were to hand out 10,000 keys and get greenlit immediately, would those 10,000 people have actually purchased the game?
Yeah, this is one of those.
Maybe that group of people would never have purchased the game anyway, because they're so interested in getting free stuff, they're not going to pay for it anyhow. I don't know. But there's some reasoning there to be considered. Yeah, so I understand where you're going with that. Any more questions?
How far off do you think we are before? You are feature complete. Are you feature complete?
Early 2015, we're feature complete. We're not content complete. We've got 3 worlds that you can play in right now in Minions of Steel. We need a ton more. What we're going to do is institute a trading of minions. And we're having minions built out in sets of 10. So we have commissioned some 3D artists to build 10 minions that are their particular art style. And then we commission a different artist to build 10 minions that is in his particular art style. That way we have truly varying ideas and concepts on what these minions should look like. We wanted to start with 5 sets of 10. We have 2 sets of 10. We want to make these tradable during the game. So in the game lobby, if you're trying to collect a particular set, you can engage in trading with people who have minions that you want. You can give them minions that they want, or you can pay them game credits for minions and do player trades in order to build the sets that you want. Of course, you can mix and match the sets too. So we've got a lot of things going on in MOS. Player trades. We've got a behavior system, which is a little bit different. You don't really see that kind of exposure of the underlying game code in an RTS. Usually, RTS units just get on with whatever it is they're going to do, however the programmers programmed them to act for that particular unit. Here, you, as a player, get to define how those individual minions act. And that's a little bit different. And of course, first-person shooter hybrid RTS is new. There's a couple of them out there already, but I think it's really going to bring RTSs back. RTSs are on the decline, so you need something to invigorate the RTS. I'm an RTS fan, so I wanted to do something to help bring that back, and this is what MOS is what we came up with to do that.
Great concept. Great name.
I think it'll work. We just
That would
need
be
to
my one point.
get it traffic. Reaching the people is the thing. We have 9,000 followers on Facebook. We need hundreds of thousands of followers on Facebook, if not 1 million. I'd be very, very happy with 1 million followers on Facebook. But 9,000 is where we're at right now. So we're trying very, very hard to do some things to get people to notice MOS.
How are you going to make money with this game? Is it a one-time fee, subscription, microtransactions?
I have engaged people offline from the Steam community who are begging us to make it a free game and to do internal pay for things like weapons. You pay your 99 cents, you get this particular weapon. Yeah, the microtransaction model. I'm a little on the fence about it. We don't necessarily have to make up our minds right this instant. We haven't posted the price for the game. We haven't posted that we're going to do microtransactions. We're just kind of keeping quiet about that. I'm promoting the gameplay and the game itself right now. We'll figure that out later. I just don't know the best way to go on that.
One of the loudest contingents of people that play games are the pay to win model. They hate, and those are some of the loudest group of people you'll ever meet. It may be a very small minority, but they have a tendency to they've ruined a number of games where you offer things like weapons. If I have $1,000, I can go out and buy the best weapon.
Right.
99 other people on the server, times thousands,
Right.
can't afford to spend $1,000 on a free game.
Right.
So that dude runs around, with his.
He's number one all the time, and nobody can
Exactly.
compete with him.
So it causes a lot of friction, but.
Right now, I'm sort of leaning towards you pay for the game, you pay your price for the game, and that's it.
Do DLCs on occasion.
Any more questions? All right, that's it. Hand off to the next person. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry.
You're welcome.
Hello. Hi everyone. My name is Rapper. I'm one active. I guess you might say I'm one of the oldest game developers here in this city. One of the first. We started doing console handheld games for SNK and for the Sega Dreamcast, and then we switched over to Xbox One, and then we get out of the console market and the handheld market. We started doing mobile games. We started doing mobile games in 2000. We had to do SMS messaging games, which was fun. Text adventure games, which you nick it down, which was the first form of microtransactions. Because every time you send a text message, you get your text message charged, and you get a 10 cents extra because it's a game. So it was a really quick market to get me off the ground. And which funded a total of how many games did I create? I don't know to count.
That you've created?
Yeah. I think I created
You can count.
I think it's 36 games. So on my belt. So I'm a seasoned pal. I've been in this business for years, over a decade. I have formed the first IGDA chapter here in Huntsville.
You covered that?
Cover that up.
You couldn't put a face to it.
We could put a face to it.
Started the IGDA chapter.
Because I feel Huntsville needed a game community. And I'm going to become a gaming hub, which I'm a really big supporter of that. So what's going on now? What do you guys want to hear about?
Of all games, which one sold best?
Which is the one I gave her for HIV/AIDS. I gave her a free copy of a game for anyone to get tested for HIV/AIDS, and this was back in 2005. In 2006, and it sold over 1.6 million copies. So that many people get tested, and they got free copy of the game. It was all through it was a mobile game. It sort of started the whole movement of games for causes, which is now a big thing now. Like with child play, it was one of those first generations of games for a cause. So I studied that. So that was successful. The other one was Gym Match, which was on the Nook. It ranked right under EA's Gamer Lab. We were right under EA all the time on the lab, and it peaked at number 24. On the Head 100 for the Nook. With no advertising, which was great. I like to do more of that. But what's interesting stuff is besides mobile games, whatever, is what I want to talk about, which gets me excited because what has transformed yet again. We keep evolving, which is great. we're now a collective of people now. A collective of musicians, artists, acrobats, and whatnot. Which is true though. I mean, everyone has diverse backgrounds. And most of my team is in Central Florida. I'm from here, but also live in St. Pete, or Tampa Bay area. And we just got this deal, a pending deal, which I can go back to Tampa next week. And it's a credit union. And I'm very excited about this. This is what I'm doing now. Gamification on a banking system for a credit union. This excites me. Because the cool thing about it is you can gamify your ATM purchases. You can gamify anything you do in the bank, your savings, your loans, your mortgages. You can gamify your payments of your credit cards and your rewards. So they want me to come in and gamify the whole credit union. No shit.
Oh man, I totally believe you.
It's kind of cool though. It's something restaurants should do. Restaurant credit union should do. But it's a credit union. In credit union are very more progressive banks than most of the big banks. Credit unions are most progressive. And so they're getting some people, they go, we should gamify this, you know. Because it was all about the rewards programs. What's the next evolution? Rewards, level all.
I'm seeing the awards now.
Yeah.
Go look at my bank statement online. In the middle of my, do the check the clear, blah blah blah. Go to this restaurant. Here's a coupon for this. Blah blah blah. They're actually marketing me through my.
Yeah, and then the next evolution thing will be gamified. Like you get so many points, and whatnot. So it's really kind of cool. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I don't know how to take it down there next week and we do the big boardroom towel and we plan things out and we sign the contract.
Sounds pretty exciting.
So I know, but I still doing PlayStation. So let's talk about PlayStation. This is gaming. This is gamification. Gamification is a big deal for me. I'm here from Gabe, who created gamification. And I wanted to, back in when I was in Orlando, we was in Universal Studios. We was in the back lawn. In the sound stages, we was in the old Nickelodeon offices. My office used to be the SpongeBob SquarePants office. They called it, because it was all laid out with SpongeBob on it. But I shared it with the Blue Man Group. And what we was doing in Orlando was at Universal Studios. Was working with Universal Creative. It was going to gamify the attractions. So you go to the Harry Potter attraction. You go to see the Transformers attraction now. You go to the Simpsons. You go to Marvel superheroes. If we gamify all that, there's smartphone minigame apps, smartphone apps. Well, lo and behold, the Universal Studios California retorted all that. So I decided to leave the back. I decided to move to St. Pete after that. But that was something that I was doing outside of gaming for theme parks, which I thought was kind of cool. And different before Disney did it, which was kind of cool. But I love gaming. Gaming's good. But we use a variety of tech. And I'm jumping around. Because I like to jump around. Jump around, jump around. Jump down. I did 7 scale, sorry. Old school. But what's interesting, the tech we use, we're lazy these days. We just use middleware. We used to create our own tech back in the day, but then we just we use for mobile we use Corner SDK, Game Salad. We started using Construction 2 for HTML5 games. We use Unity. We could be a strong supporter of Unity. The CEO has been begging me to put something on Unity for the longest time, and we do it with the PlayStation platform. And that's the segue to PlayStation. I ask you guys a question. Who knows what the PlayStation platform exists of now? What is the PlayStation? E3 they defined it. If you guys pay attention to E3, you know what PlayStation is all about now. It's all about the indies. It's all about the indies. It's all about the indies. Sony made a strong move about that. It's about the indies and also about the PlayStation. The PlayStation TV is going to be a big deal because it's going to rewrite the Vita system. And the PlayStation TV is a big, big deal. And it's $99 going against Apple TV. We suspect Apple is going to release apps and games on Apple TV this fall. You cannot have Sony. They should have done it at World Developers Conference, but Apple did it. Pull the plug, yeah. Well, Apple will pull the plug when the PlayStation TV launch, because that's going to be the biggest competition, is the PlayStation TV. Because Sony has the marketing to go against Apple any day of the week. It's so bad. It's going to use Amazon TV. So it's, so these micro consoles, they can be kind of hard for them to struggle. It's so bad now with Sony in the fight. But the cool thing about the PlayStation TV and everything is it's all Unity. They want you to use Unity. They do. Sony wants to use Unity really bad. They give out the free Unity tools, no less.
What do you attribute that to? You think they made a deal?
They made a big deal. They made a good deal. Because Unreal has always been seen as AAA titles. The Unreal Engine. The Source Engine has always been attributed to AAA titles. But what really for the indies? Unity! Unity. And so I'm a big strong supporter of Unity. So that's the tag I use. And for gamification, we use Google, Moz, and Firefox, and other badges and other stuff. So that's that. We get 4 iPhone games. Oh, the story about us and Apple is an interesting story. Being in the mobile game development company, a lot of us veterans, we go around company. So actually our resumes looks like a who's who of whatever company. And we are corporate sluts, they call us, in the industry. You can actually have a single corporate slut.
We got called a lot worse than that, but okay.
Yeah, you better some company, So you build your connections in the industry. I talk to other new people in the group who just started to get company. These are my best. You keep always network because you never know who's going to work for which company, who's going to have a deal for you. And that's the best thing about the gaming industry is they are willing to give you a job, even when you're not looking for one. They can give you one. So it's a good community to feel about. So don't get depressed if you're not doing anything in gaming. Just keep your motivated. The Crackers team, they had a good deal with Rio. Yeah. Out of the blue.
It's official.
I know. So that's a big deal. I just want to say that I'm very happy that we have this many people here tonight. This is pretty cool. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. And I don't know what else to say. I mean, I don't have any tech to show you.
I got 2 questions.
Yeah.
Earlier I was trying to explain kind of the history of the chapter, and I didn't remember when you left and went to Florida. What year did you go to Florida? 2003?
I went to Nashville in 2007 because I was doing. Oh, let me tell you what I did in Nashville. Nashville was interesting. I was an Activision slot. And no one knows about this until I mentioned this. I was an Activision slot. And I also was an MTV slot. I started around Music Wall because I could get to the producers and the singer-songwriters in Nashville. I could relate to them because they like to go hunting. They don't like to play golf. They like to go hunting. So if you like to go hunting, which I always miss when I go hunting with them, because they don't like killed animals. but I still go hunting just to sign a contract. But you have to do what you have to do for a contract. You know. So the deal with Nashville was between 2007 and 2009. It was the epic center of Guitar Hero and Rock Band. And they wanted more content. But the people in California and New York could not get the people in Nashville to sing over the songs for country music until I came in. So I was the behind the scene guy, the middleman that created the singer-songwriters into the music albums, into Activision, into MTV from the gaming side. I had to send the deals to get digital downloads of all these country music bands and Christian music bands for Guitar Hero and Rock Band. So before the collapse. So when the collapse happened, I went to Florida. When the collapse happened. So they went to Florida, and I have eyes on theme parks all around. I ended up trying to do something with theme parks because I thought, because when I was in Florida, it was all about transmedia. Are you guys familiar with the term transmedia? Transmedia is a buzzword. It's a good buzzword. It's happening now. The biggest thing about transmedia is Angry Birds. Angry Birds is all transmedia now. It's everywhere. It's lesson. It's merchandise. You see Angry Birds everywhere. You see an animation TV movie of Angry Birds. You see web episodes of animation of Angry Birds. You see Angry Bird plushes. You see Angry Birds cereal, Angry Birds gummies, Angry Birds. Everything's Angry Birds. You know, this transmedia, but they're not telling a story. But what in Hollywood fashion of transmedia is story time. And Disney is the masters of this. Is that you tell a story through your theme parks. It's the same story. You present the princesses. Is the big example of transmedia storytelling. You know, and so I was also involved at Universal in the backlog to do transmedia storytelling with their stuff. You know, have do that. So I get excited transmedia stuff. So if you see my LinkedIn profile, you see a bunch of transmedia stuff on my LinkedIn profile. But it was all about the synergies about licenses that you take. The big thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to create, which I still might do. I'm gonna give you guys this whole thing. Is imagine taking an action figure. A regular action figure, then on the bottom of it you have a QR code. You click on the QR code, and each week or each day, it tells you a different story of what the action figure is supposed to be doing. So you keep your stuff engaged. Or you can do that with like DC Comics or Marvel Comics, with their superheroes. So for example, you click on the comic book, the month of the comic book, but then on the toy actually itself, you continue the story. So you go try to react the action scene with the action figures. Because it tells you what to do on the box, on the QR code from our mobile website. So that's one of the directions I wanted to go into with transmedia. Was with which I hate Marvel. Disney was kind of interested in that, but then Disney said they wanted to go against Skylanders. So Infinity was born. So they kind of like my idea, but Infinity was more like, let's just call it Skylanders and call it a day. So Disney Infinity was born. Instead of using like regular action figures and whatnot to tell the story of the princesses or whatnot. So there was plenty of opportunities in Orlando, in Huntsville, to branch out into different forms of the gaming, to make gaming truly mainstream. And that's the whole, that's the name of gaming as content. It's being mainstream, being more presented. So, okay, questions. I have comment out. Wrong.
I'll go Mountain Dew.
You mentioned we a lot.
Huh?
You mentioned we a lot. You have a team of people that you work with.
Attractive. They're all on the autistic spectrum. I employ autistic people now.
Are they co-located or are they distributed?
They're in St. Pete, in Tampa, in Orlando. Because again, that's the gaming schools, like Full Sail, UCF, International Design Academy, Art Institute. Let's move. Pull down down here. Let's move. I get this. I get a total of 60 resumes a day now. So I have to go jobs photo. So yeah, I get 60 resumes a day now, about on the average. You know, yesterday was on 25, but Monday was 60. You know, so I still counting resumes, and they're all from like photo vision. Because there's not that many jobs in photo. I mean, Zynga opened up a shop in Orlando, finally, and they wanted to open up at Universal Studios, and Universal Studios told them no. And Zynga that ego crushed. The Universal, which was kind of sweet. I know that story all too well because Universal bragged about that. They go, well, you could be the only game company we got allowed on the back lot. You know, even Zynga tried to get in here. Even turned Zynga down. You know, so but we like what you want to do, man. So it's dealing with the synergy of Hollywood because this really was really true. 10 years ago, we wanted the whole synergy of gaming and movies to be the same. Now we're going into the philosophies. Gaming, big budget films. Now you get your World of Warcraft movie, finally going to come out. You get your Halo TV show that's about to be produced now. And the whole thing was, the whole synergy is like, if you make a movie, gaming, you could cross-sell, it's all about marketing. If you guys understand marketing, you understand how the game industry really works. Because without marketing, the game industry is dead. And everyone says it's really good to be indie, but sometimes you gotta go back to a publisher or two of the big boys. Because they don't have the big brand name, and they have all these marketing dollars that you don't have. You know, and sometimes you have to do, like what we tried at Water Active, is the balancing act. Do indie stuff, but they try to do some side projects with the big boys. You know, but not as really for like work for Hal or for slots. You know, but I really like the national years that we did was because I was saying because I met a bunch of country music stars. I became friends with Jack Ladd of the Rat Straps because it was over at the Rat Straps catalog. Onto the talk back. I mean,
Be a shooter?
huh?
Be a shooter?
No. No, he's real. He's the strangest person I've ever met in my life. He refuses to get in the song. He wants to be as red skin can be. He wants to be the biggest albino. And you go into his mansion, it's all, everything he got for his house is from an African safari. Everything is all African. And it's bizarre. He's one of the strangest person. And I mean, the whole philosophy of being Jack Rat, I've totally red skin, you know, I'm totally black. You know, I just can't wrap my head on that. But he's a good guy. But I met that. I met Dolly Parton. She has big tits. But I try to get humorous too, guys. I know see it's like, which is good. But I'm back now. Let's get some more questions.
Well, actually, we got to move this along.
Let's move this along.
It's almost going an hour and 45 minutes.
Thank you, guys.
Who's next? Thank you, Randy.
Alright, so we are C63 Industries. As Charlotte said, we were founded as actually a business recently just because we needed a business to sell pixel, but before that we were just doing it under our names.
Story behind the name of the company, C63, we have a domain that consists of 63 Cs. Like C repeated 63 times. So that's
Not CC.
not C.
We also have 63x's.xxs.
And I thought C was for Charlotte.
That's one of the C's. There's 62 others.
We're just one bit short of the 64.
Yes. So yeah, Charlotte mentioned that DJ Center who did the music for us, but other than that, it is just the two of us. Nick Pixel. That's a photo from PAX Prime last year. We were at the indie after party in Seattle. Yeah, so our game is Pixel. It is a puzzle platformer shooter. It started in 2010 because I lost my job, and I'm like, I've had this idea in the back of my head for this game, just working on game engines of, squares and keep things simple and basic and minimal. I can just quickly look that up and make a game.
It's a very clean game. I like it for looking at sort of like a sports perspective that aren't in the hitbox. So people that love doing speed run, trying to get a high score game, it's
Right, and
perfect format.
Charlotte started helping me right away. And it's been our game ever since. But yeah, 2010, thought, yeah, this is going to be a quick little game to make. We're still working on it. We're hoping to have it done by the end of the year and release early next year. We were on Kickstarter, which we failed.
At one time, we ran on 600.
Yeah, a little higher than that, I think around 700. And people actually started pulling their money out of it like a week before it failed. I'm like, it's Kickstarter, they're not going to take your money if we don't make our goal. One person actually pulled $256 out of our. They actually invested $256,000 in Pixel, and then they pulled out like a few days before the Kickstarter ended.
Yeah, we asked for a relatively modest amount, about $16,000. But allow us to not be homeless while we spend a few months finishing this. That's what we asked for. In hindsight, I'm glad we had more time to work on it rather than trying to rush to it on a time frame like that. So we really not do that for the Kickstarter.
Right. So we've been taking this conventions. We take it to ChargeCon. That was actually ChargeCon 2012, right?
Yeah. Full control was the first time we did the convention.
And here we are at the latest ChargeCon, which was spring this year.
Yeah.
We also take it to Hamicon, if anyone knows that one. That's a local anime convention, but they have a game room with video games, so we'll take it there, get a lot of input there. We also took it to Chattanooga, that's up in Chattanooga, which is
Trains.
yeah.
What is the train again?
It's
It's actually moving a PC case, and it's at the end of the game because it's something that, like, a curiosity for people to come over to the table and look at that and play a game on it. Kind of exciting.
so taking it to these conventions, and then a week after ChargeCon this year, we took it to PAX East, and that was our booth. And as you can see, we got quite a crowd.
Yeah, that the convention center in Boston, I think there were 60 to 70,000 clear.
Yeah.
Kyle had other indie games, Revive, they just like big in the background, Skywalk up there.
It was so big that Wes was there and he never saw us.
Yep.
So, this is how much it cost us to go to PAX. The grand total was,
3,000?
no, plus that little extra there, but
So-
we budgeted $4,200, and we came in like, I think $102 for the budget. But yeah, we actually did a postmortem on our game dev. If anyone wants to read it, just look for Pixel postmortem on Reddit, and you can read it all about everything that happens. But the big question is probably, was it worth it? And here's some of the press that we got. Pixel was easily the most challenging game and probably one of the most rewarding at PAX East this year. That is from 2-Dash, which is actually a pretty big site. They have like tens of thousands of followers on Facebook. So not huge, but big enough to actually matter. We're being sold on several sites right now. Humble is selling us to Sir and Indie Game Stand. If you are looking to get your game on any of these, Humble is the one to go to because unlike everyone else, they only take 5% of the money. And they have a really good reputation. So, if someone's like, hey, here's a Humble key, they know exactly what that is. It's like giving a Steam key. If I said, here's an indie game Steam key, how many people would actually know what to do with it?
The Game Stand has a really good community there. They've been
They are.
supportive. They did we were part of their week-long summer sale a week or two ago. It was during Hammer Time. That was very helpful.
Yeah, they're very nice over there. I'm not trying to knock them. I'm just saying if you're, looking just to get your game out on one platform, focus on humble first. So, as you can tell, we're on Greenlight as well. We're not on Steam yet.
We were, I don't know what number of games we were on Greenlight. We were one of the, in the first batch.
Yeah.
And they started, in September, so we were on October.
I think it was October 10th, 2012 is when we first jumped on Greenlight. We have been on Greenlight for 622 days as of this day. Here's our stats right now. So,
73% for top 100.
yep.
So the first game on Greenlight had a disadvantage in that Greenlight changed the voting method, I don't know, halfway through the time we've been
Right.
there. So they originally didn't have a show me later or maybe vote. They just had yes or no. And so many games that were put on early accrued the most no votes, and then are not the games put on more recently are less likely to have no votes. So that's something that's kind of hurting games that don't have water.
Right, because to get out of your queue, because you keep getting the same game showing up in your queue, you either had to vote yes or no. And if someone didn't know that they absolutely wanted yes, they would vote no. There was no, asking again. So we accumulated a lot of no votes because we had such a niche game that a lot of people were like, I'm not sure about this yet, I'd like to see more of it, but I want this out of my queue, so I'm voting no. And so we're actually in a pretty big hole. However, we're still doing pretty good. So this blue line right here is the number 100.
Yeah. So we are 1,000 votes away.
Yeah, we're 1,000 votes away.
And so 73% of the way to the top 100 is where we rank up their teams.
Yeah. So we're doing good. Maybe if Valve puts out a few more games on Greenlight, we might actually hit the top 100. Yes?
See one of these spikes right there.
Yeah.
Is the number 10 and the number 5 items furnish 2 spikes at the end.
So when we actually were first on Greenlight, we got a huge amount of votes. We were actually getting more yes votes than the number 10 or something like that. Like they had that nice little graph that they showed it. And then after 7 days, because we're no longer on the new releases, that just dwindled down. So a lot of games actually get huge spikes as soon as they get on Greenlight for that reason. Not saying that, not putting any holes in that, just saying that, there is a reason that some games do get huge spikes. Please don't throw.
We said just bouncing away from the top 100, and once we get to that top 100, then Steam will start considering whether they will greenlight you. Even though voting gets you to the top, Steam still has to handpick the games to try to put some quality control in there.
Right. So we made our own engine. We call it the train engine.
Set on fire.
It actually started as a little bit of a joke, mainly because, we like trains, we had the train computer, but it actually works very well for engines. We have a modular engine. So what that means is people can actually use our engine, take parts of it, and replace parts, and assemble it kind of like a train. And the train engine itself is pulling along these modules and making your game work. So it's pretty scalable that way. Here is actually the layers of the game engine itself. So we have 3 languages that our engine's written in. The whole thing is written. So it's C#, which is what the games themselves are written. Then there is C++ CLI, which is actually a .NET version of C++. That is being used as the middle part that's pasting together the C# and the C++ at the end. Now the reason we went this way is bytecode. Bytecode is extremely important. Unity uses bytecode. That's why it can be put on all these platforms right now. So C++, for example, that has to be compiled for each platform it gets put on. You have to make tweaks and adjustments for each platform. Where bytecode, you just compile it once and it can run on anything that actually has an interpreter for it. Mono, for example, is the interpreter that's used on just about everything but Windows. Windows is just runs it already. So, one issue though is that some things can't be put down on line code, which is where this layer comes in. So stuff like OpenAL, that still needs to have C++ or C calls being done. So these get compiled for each platform it's on, but everything else does not, and all this stuff does is funnel data down into these. And that's how our engine works.
So they actually made the presentation software.
Yeah,
That's what C#.
we have our own presentation software and actually can run on our interface software, so we can actually go through OpenGL and stuff like that if we wanted to. So these are the tools we use. Visual Studio, of course. We also use Mono, which is what we use for Linux and eventually Macintosh development, and maybe the platforms too. I'm pretty sure PlayStation, for example, has Mono because it has Unity. It's just will Sony let us run our code on there without it going through Unity. So there's little things like that about issues we can have. Also, Windows Phone is another platform we can go to because that just does the bytecode as well. And for repository, we use Mercurial. I know there's Git, there's Mercurial. Some people like one, some people like the other. We like Mercurial. That's what we use. And that is it for about us and about Pixel. And we will load up Pixel and actually show you it. So is there any questions while switching over to Pixel? All right.
On the subject of auditory, we are planning to put some open source stuff out there in the coming weeks. Actually, we're looking at it now, bit by bit.
Right, we're actually going to open source all of our stuff. The game, the engine, all that's going to be put out there on Bitbucket for people to download and use it as they will.
And we would like people to make mods. We've already made one mod for Pixel, which we might show if we have time. So it's sort of April Fool's joke.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to just run the latest build. So let's see how this goes. If not, I do have excuse me, we do have a release build that does work. So, but let's look dangerously. Building. So this is Pixel. It is a puzzle platformer shooter. So, who knows what a puzzle platformer is? Who knows what a platformer shooter is? Combine all this together, and you get Pixel. So, I will play, and I will just start at the beginning. Actually, I need to go back and Alright. You're a Pixel. Jump. Flip. Yes. Stack that you have to avoid. Bonus points you can get. Yeah, but the text that I'm just running through instead of reading. And the whole point of the game is to get to the goal.
The basic story is that you are a pixel that you're going to be
And I don't know if you can see the parallaxing in the background, but when you actually get to the gold, it all lines up and forms a picture. And they actually give you some information about it. If you go to Would You Like to Know More, it actually takes you to a Wikipedia page about it. So it's got a little bit of educational in it as well. So that's just a little bit of simple basics of it. So colors are a big part of pixel. You're a pixel, of course. You can change your color. So you're red, you can go through red. You can't go through these colors though. But you got red and green. You get yellow. Now you can't go through the red. You can go through the yellow. Yellow minus red is green. Now you can go through the green. Now what these do, these toggle that color panel on and off. So green, blue, cyan, minus green, makes it blue, plus red is magenta. Now if I want to, I can actually go back, figure out the puzzle, to get the bonus points. So here, click the bonus points, optional objectives. Go. And of course, just go back to the goal, everything lines up. Alright, now here's where things start getting actually interesting. So, you got your basic platforming. You jump, flip. Yeah, checkpoint up ahead, so you die, respawn. Then you have these things. Touch this, change gravity, the whole level rotates. And you go off in a picture this way, back where, I would have fallen down, which I just fell down again. Actually, not sure why it's a little unstable at the moment, but yeah. So just come up there, rotate the level again, go to the goal. Once again, everything lines up. Orientation. Right, so continuing. So now we get into the shooting. So you're able to shoot a pixel. You can actually see the bullets there. Yeah. So you can actually change the weapons you shoot with. Change the color of the shoot.
There's a color wheel on the lower right that shows the camera type in the middle, and then the colors rotate around the edge, and we added that to help people figure out what color should I shoot.
We also have a colorblind mode, so if anyone's colorblind, you can actually still play pixel.
Yes. We also have the ability to change the color scheme, so if somebody really hates the colorfulness, they want it black and white, they want it, we'll have a variety of different color schemes to easily change there.
So here's an enemy. Now, shoot an enemy. But what color do you shoot it with? You don't shoot it with green, you shoot it with the opposite of green. Now, you know what the opposite of green is? You use the color wheel. So the top color is the one you have selected. So the opposite color is the one across from it. So right now it's actually matched because we got green at the bottom. So now I can just the enemy, turn it white, and a white pixel to that pixel. So once again, color mixing, checkpoints. So this one's yellow. Rotates, put yellow at the bottom, now I'm shooting blue. And red enemy. Cyan, so let's put cyan at the bottom. So you get the point of the combat. This is again, this is just a simple level to show how the combat works. So move on. Level here and go to the goal. And that's the basic gameplay of Pixel. So one other thing I want to show is the actual level editor. So fortunately you can't use it with this. Studio. So here's the level editor. So you have different kind of workspaces. So start out, you just put some entities down there. So drop a block, move the block, size the block, got the player down there, and now I can actually hit escape and just go right in and start playing. I can actually pause it while it's playing, drop the player, hang on, player, drops more blocks, pause it, pause it again, drop the enemy in there. So we got properties of the enemy, you want to tweak it. So now we got player, you got the enemy. So you can actually build the level as you're playing it. So you can actually stop and just keep trying this jump and see what it actually feels like, and tweak things as you're going. You don't have to like go in and out of an editor. You don't have to get yourself to that point over and over again. You can just be like, okay, I'm pausing. I'm going to try this. And the nice thing is when you actually reset the level, here and reset the level, it puts you back where you started. So it doesn't, if you pause it, it doesn't keep you where you were when you paused. It puts you back where you initially started. That goes with everything else in the level. So then you got capping, so you can just easily, make some points. Click on something to follow those points. Simple. It's following capping. So you got a easy way of doing moving block. And then we have a logic system, which can get really complex if you actually want to go in there and start adjusting and tweaking things. So you can do something like, say, hey, let's make this an area, and let's also have an entity group. Let's add an entity to the entity group. Let's have the player in there. So let's go back. So let's see, let's get a filter, area. So next, entities to area and area to area. So what this is doing, yeah, I live dangerously. So what this is doing is when this is going to count how many of these entities are inside of this area. Now you go back to values, turn that into a Boolean. That's going to turn that into a true or false. Connection. Let's go. We don't need strings. I'm just going to drop one here for now. Go back. And then let's make a message display. So when a true statement is sent to the message, it'll actually display the message, and let's give a message. Let's message hello. Hello. Alright? Message, that's hello. Now escape, go into level, come over here. And hello, which just popped up and then vanished, but so that's the logic system. It's drag and drop. It's trying to make it easy for people who aren't programmers to make levels and actually do complex things in the levels. And we are working on adding Lua support to it as well, so people who actually are programmers can actually do more stuff if they want to. And if people actually don't want to go like really crazy, they can also just make simple AI commands, like, when an enemy hits that, they move the other way. When they hit that, they move the other way, escape. And now the enemy just move back and forth by hitting back and forth on those commands. And that's pretty much our level editor. That's what all levels are being made in. We're planning on actually having a hub so people can upload levels, rate them, review them, download them, share them, things like that.
As part of that, we'd also like to have online multiplayer, eventually have an online leaderboard, people be able to play against each other, to support multiple players so they can do puzzles together, shooting arena type things in this 2D world.
We have a lot of interesting ideas that we're planning on adding after the game is released. We don't want to end up going to like feature creep right now. We want to actually get the core game done and then go out there and have all this other stuff. Like if you actually look at the feature page, we have future features that are going to come out after release, and this is really what we want in the final game. And one last thing that I actually did not mention on the presentation, we actually have Oculus Rift support, which again is being buggy at the moment.
You can see it very well here, but this is stereoscopic 3D, so the way it works with Oculus Rift is it basically mirrors the same image twice on your screen, like you can see here, and when you're viewing this through the Rift, it looks 3D.
So, you know, it's like, it's a 2D game, why would you have Oculus support? Well, it actually looks really cool. It's like a pop-up book. You see, like, you know, in layers, and, like, especially the parallax scrolling in the background, it looks really beautiful in the Oculus Rift. And one actually interesting issue that running into the Oculus Rift, how do you do two cursors? Like Windows doesn't have two cursors. So how do you actually do two cursors? And on top of that, do two cursors that are offset from each other and still make it work with the HUDs and the menus and all that. So if you're going to add Oculus Rift support to your game, that's something you have to think about. It's just trial and error, find out what works for you. With us, we just have a state cursor that pops up when the other one goes. And it worked out for us. Okay. Anyone want to see our April Fool's game? Okay. Yeah.
So we thought of this game idea originally just a promotional April Fool's joke, but we ended up making an actual playable mod, and people like it.
It was fun because it was a mod. We modded our game. Like we made a mod of our game. Like how cool is to actually have a mod exist of your own game? I'm sure you made it yourself, but still, it's really cool. And that means other people can make mods of the game as well if they want to. So here is our really silly April Fool's mod. Yep. Charlotte, would you like to give it a try?
Sure.
3, 2, 1, let's play.
So the goal is to stay within the center area, and basically just push one button left. You have a choice of 12 buttons for that, and you see the highlights where you can only stay within that while you're navigating this course. So it's not a true flat game, but this is more interesting than the blocks move and sort of a sideways, and it's progressively faster.
Okay, so here's something we put together quickly for April Fool's. Centered in the music. We did like that song in 3 hours. And we just had a whole laugh, a good time with this. Charlie didn't want some video for it. Do it with Google Glass.
It was fun to do this with Oculus Rift support as well. So it's a little weird.
This supports Oculus Rift, so we got the first one with Oculus Rift support.
To me, it's like you're in a fishbowl. It's like burning out you, it's like trippy experience.
Alright.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Great job, guys.
Yeah. Any questions?
Very intellectual, I like it.
No questions, okay. Oh, wait, yeah.
Yeah, I noticed in your editor, there was like a north, south, east, west sort of thing. Are you able to like reorient the camera?
Yeah, because, you know, it's a game where you have that happening, so you can actually click on the direction and orient it, the camera that way.
Well, thank you very much.
So we are Team Elysian Shadows, and Elysian Shadows is, if you could actually see it, It is being marketed as a next generation 2D RPG. And I know that sounds oxymoronic, but what it is it started off as an old school style 2D RPG, kind of like Chrono Trigger or Secret Man. I don't know if you played those games before. But you know, it was traditional, it was 16-bit, it was pixel art. And as we were working on this game and this engine, we started wanting to add more and more things that weren't in traditional games. We have a rigid body physics engine, we have the camera's actually full 2D and 3D, the environments are fully 3D. We have dynamic lighting that supports point lights, spotlights, and directional lights. We have omnidirectional shadow maps. The audio is 3D and positional, and we have a full 3D rigid body physics engine. Yeah, we'll come back to that in PowerPoint. So we're best known for a YouTube series called Adventures in Game Development. Probably never heard of us. Believe it or not, we're kind of famous on the internet. We have almost 10,000 subscribers, and the way this thing started is when I was like 17 or something, living in my mom's attic. I was coding for the Sega Dreamcast. That was like my first. That was my baby. That's what this originally started on. It was like a little engine for the Dreamcast, and we were recording ourselves developing this game for like, you know, we'll release this as end game footage or whatever when we're done. And we just put it on YouTube, and it kind of like exploded. So here we are now, like a couple years later, we have this online series called Adventures in Game Development, which has really gotten us famous in the gaming community. We've had plenty of contacts. We have the publishing deal, like I said. So what we do is, every so often we release what is a chapter of Adventures in Game Development. I guess that's not actually happening. Anyway, so what it is it's just like, it shows developing the game from the perspective of the entire team. It shows art, music, coding, scripting,
lifestyle. And it doesn't hide anything either, because like while we're doing this, you'll see the engine crash out or something screw up, and it's real time just like
a lot of cussing, a lot of late nights, a lot of substance abuse. So here's dynamic lighting, for example, that I'm showing off like the point lights. Actually, this is a good clip to show you like kind of the next generation thing. So that's a point light. These are shadow maps cast off of 2D sprites. The game is actually all 2D sprite based, but it's assembled in a way. We wrote our own level editor that allows us to create 3D environments and 3D maps. As you can see, it's 3D using only 2D graphics, and then we're able to apply these advanced rendering techniques and shaders to that. So that's why we're next gen. Old school, and we're still on the Sega Dreamcast, and it's going to be actually a physical release of the Dreamcast, a hard disk actual release. No, seriously, it is. No, I'm absolutely serious. So yeah, we quit our jobs. We got some initial investments. So we have a Kickstarter starting August 1st, and after that, it's either we finish the game under a bridge or we hit it big. So we'll see. I just want to show you a little more here because it's about to get a little interesting. Showing off a little bit of the 3D rigid body physics engine, which is actually why I did not sleep last night, is because I was working on that. Let's see. And of course, I passed it. There we go. So, particles, 3D space, blah, blah, blah. We wanted physics to play largely into the gameplay of the Listening Shadows. We wanted all of the objects in space not to be just static sprite backdrops. We wanted you to be able to pick up and throw things like you're getting your ass beat by a boss or something. You can drop a potion out of your inventory and smack the shit out of him with it. Maybe he has a weakness, you didn't know about it. So from its inception, the physics engine was something that we'd always envisioned playing pretty big part in ES. So like for example, this is a spell that basically like it's an implosive gravitational force spell. We can also apply these spells to mask certain objects and certain materials, so we can implode in metallic objects and then like shoot them out, kind of like sure, yeah. So that's just showing that off. Jump around a little more. Like I said, this is our artist. He's not very interesting. We're an international team, so like you'll watch this video and we all have different accents. And we're the rednecks. And here's a 3D scene with the specular mapping and the bump mapping.
Granted, these normal maps and the specular maps are not accurate. This was a test we did with a program that just spit them out for us, so it's not actually going to look like that.
And we are, some areas, depending on what looks better, is more 2D, some are more 3D, and then we have dynamic transitions for other areas, and like in combat, during cutscenes and stuff, we can move the camera down to more of a 3D perspective to give a better look. Which track is this? No, that's not his best.
This is 25.
This is 25, yeah. Trying to find one with Tyler. Oh, that's it. Oh, this was Tyler trying to do the prototype battle system.
Ignore the sword coming out of the forehead.
It's a sword. He's controlling with his hair.
Beta.
The weapon is
It explodes in crystals where the gravity doesn't affect them. Very raw. The footage here is very raw, but I mean, it's real. It's game development. You see us make it as it happens. You see it all fuck up too. But ultimately, it winds up working in the end. So, you want to start the actual presentation? I just wanted to give you a background because if we just started off and said we're a game that started off on Dreamcast, you'd be like. So, that's kind of like the rundown of it. Just YouTube adventures of game development. It's more than you need.
Like I said, we are Listening Shadows, the next generation 2D, 3D role-playing game. So what is Listening Shadows? Like Falco said, it did start off as a Dreamcast title. Obviously, we supported Windows, that's what we actually developed now. But it's really grown from there. We actually got Eddie Ringle, our Android guy. You guys went on to
So right now with Windows, Linux, OS X, Ouya, Android, iPhone, Sega Dreamcast, with plans for more. We wrote this engine from scratch, and I wrote a cross-platform C API that allows us to seamlessly implement the driver calls for video and audio on basically any embedded device. The guy who moved us over to the Android had actually never even seen my source code for the engine. He was doing this in parallel while I was working on gameplay stuff. So like this is kind of cool, and like people who watch our videos are really interested in this library. And the thing is that like they can go off and implement it on the Wii or something, or the Wii U. They've never seen my code. I can link against their version. They can take my Dreamcast build, you know. So it's kind of communistic, and that like we help each other out, except for building stuff like so it's not communistic.
We always get asked this question in podcasts: how long have we been doing this? Like Falco mentioned, this kind of started.
Not a fair question.
We met in middle school. We've been really good friends since then. So if you go back and look at the very first Adventure from Game Development video, it was released over 7 years ago. We obviously haven't been programming like this for 7 years. Really, it's been about 4 years since chapter 21. Right? I would say so. We really hit the ground running. We got really serious and decided we were going to have to commit and make this actually a thing, or we're just going to let it drop off.
Now we quit our jobs. So
yes, now we quit our jobs. We're committed.
So yeah, in addition to the game though, we developed this multi-platform framework called the Gyro, which is like it's a multimedia abstraction layer for whatever console or platform you want to release it on. We built our engine from scratch, and then we built a level editor / toolkit that integrates with this engine and even allows you to play your levels on the Dreamcast or Ouya or whatever and invoke them separately to help develop the game.
So I guess one of the questions that we need to address is, where's the rest of my team? Well,
Not here.
I'm not doing art or anything like that. Falco and I are the only ones here in Alabama. Actually, besides Eddie, the only ones in the United States. Patrick Wallach found us 2 years ago. He actually joined the team as a concept artist. Really, really amazing. He had never done pixel art ever. Everything you just saw was pixel art. He's done that since he's been with us. So we consider him our lead artist. kind of underneath of him is Leandro here. He found this more recently. He's actually from St. Petersburg, Russia. He's a very classically trained artist. He actually did a painting for a case study that we're going to give. But he started doing case law for us. He's very, very good. Daniel Tyndall is one of the guys that's going to be coming joining us for July. He came in as a web designer originally. He did a brand new website. It's amazing. But once the website is done, you know, what is it going to really work on? So he's done a ton of PR. He updates the front page of the website every day with all the interviews and stuff like that. And started doing web design. Connor Linning is the actual rock star. He has a really big background in like actually playing in bands, like metal producing. He's got a whole sound studio in the basement. So he brings like this whole
We're talking about Connor. So one of the really cool things about Connor, so we talked about the fusion of old school and like modern style with the artistic aspect of listening to. So we're trying to do the same thing with the audio aspect. So this guy has a very rock background, very modern music. He produces like electronica, metal bands, stuff like that. So what we've done is we've sampled taken samples from platforms like the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, like old school 16-bit style melodies, and we've also fused that with modern instruments, rock influences, choirs, orchestras, and it's really cool. I mean, just like the graphics, it's nostalgic and familiar, but it's also really new sounding. That's kind of what we're trying to go with for it. Maybe we can play a song for you here. Which one is it? Yeah. This guy, when he joined the team, he wrote like a book about the audio engine he used to develop for him. So the audio engine in ES has right now three tracks simultaneously playing. Every track for an overworld has 3 different levels of intensity. So when you start a combat, or when you enter like a forest or something, there might just be like light drums playing, but then when you aggro enemies, another, maybe like a banjo, but another instrument joins in, you know, and then it kicks up, it reacts to the environment, and it fades in and out dynamically for that, according to the intensity of the combat. It's also fully positional. And when I say positional, I don't just mean in 2D, it is truly 3D, because the world maps are in 3D, so if you're standing below some asshole on a bridge growling at you, in 3D space, it truly is 3D, the entire audio. So that's Connor. That's a rock star. Yeah. And in case you're wondering, all these guys, this is one of the perks of being famous on YouTube, is that they found us through our Adventures in Game Development series, and they just believed in the crazy stuff that we like to do, and they decided to throw their hats in, and they've been working with us since they've always.
So like Falco mentioned, we actually got 3 really big important pieces of software. We have our own custom engine that we wrote, the toolkit that we use to build our world, and then LibGyro, that abstraction there.
So LibGyro is a low-level C library and API. It has a lot of assembly for some platforms, just for low-level stuff. Platforms that support it, it's OpenGL based and GLSL for the dynamic lighting. On the Dreamcast, we had to roll our own video driver down to the metal. It's kind of cool. It's like my proudest achievement in life. Truly. ES Toolkit, or I'll go to ES Gamma next. ES Gamma is the engine. So LibGyro is C. Our engine is C++, and it is completely platform agnostic because all platform-specific calls are made to LibGyro, which then results in true platform-dependent implementation. So ES Gamma is C++, C++11, and it's fully extensible through Lua for gameplay scripting and storyline, and that's where he comes in. He's the lead gameplay engineer. I just make the engine. That's C++, and then ES Toolkit, or ESTK, because it sounds trendier, is the toolkit we made because the way we're making worlds and the stuff that our engine does, traditional 2D level editor really doesn't give us the kind of control we need to be able to create things and elevate them in 3D and change the normal direction of a sprite to face like this and create normal maps and bump maps and stuff. So it shares a significant amount of code with ES Gamma, and like I said, it also supports, it has like a cute little drop-down menu we can show you in a minute where you can pick like run it on the Dreamcast, run it on Windows or whatever. So that's the software arsenal.
I guess the next part, some people can ask us about this production deal that we worked out. How many of you are familiar with Pure Solar, the Genesis?
Really? Really? So, we have a cool story then. So the guys who make Pure Solar, like we've been big fans of them. Like, dude, freaking coded an awesome game for the Sega Genesis. And,
I love the Sega Genesis.
You know, and they made a physical release. So apparently, we've been mutual fans of one another. He's been watching Adventures in Game Development. That whole company, Watermelon's been watching Adventures in Game Development and following our progress for quite a while. I got an email one day asking if we would like to publish with them, since I don't know if you knew, but they just did a Kickstarter for the Sega Dreamcast for Pure Solar HD, and it was highly successful. So they've already invested a significant amount of money into the physical production and distribution of Dreamcast games now. So we're signing with them, you know, to create physical Dreamcast games now. And they've also offered to give us access to dev kits for whatever other platforms we would like to target in the future, but that's... The engine's platform independent. It runs on the freaking Dreamcast. It'd be a joke to put it on the 3DS, Xbox One, PS4, whatever. All that will come down to Kickstarter funding and stretch goals. So that's hopefully what we're saying.
As I'm sure you got it. I don't know if we're actually...
We all need to show the two things I had. So I at least had the latest build the game. I'll show you what I was up all night working on last night. It's a little sketchy.
Resolution of the monitors or projectors, so you don't do adjustments.
Seriously? I promise the SDK looks better than that. It's no way. Like, here's a lot of deeper stamp boxes, but here's a lot of more worlds. Here's that drop down menu this time. Where you can pick the platform where we're running, sends it over the network, TCP IP to your Dreamcast for and all that crap. Where's the So let's look at the first town. So there's 3 tile layers. Tiles have all their own like cute little properties and stuff, which are over here that you can't see. But you know, it's basic tile design stuff. Then there's a bunch of additional features that we support, like elevation is the concept we use to elevate things in 3D space to make a truly 3-dimensional world geometrically out of really 2D sprites.
Back it up for a second. 3 layers.
Right, so
I mean, we've got 3 different layers for when we built the game. And as long as they're all the same elevation, it's 1, 2, 3, always. But in order to build a bridge and have like a tree and stuff like that, we need to be able to break them up and actually layer them differently. So you can technically have like layer 1 at like 16 elevation and layer 2 down below, and it's still going to be layered on top. But we need a really good way to be able to represent that in a toolkit. So that's where these decorations come in. That's what those numbers mean. That's the elevation value is 1, 2, 3 decorations.
there's also a bunch of other cool tools that ESDA has, like a sprite sheet manager and things like that. I'm working on making a support on maps and all that important too.
What that was a sheet manager. One of our old artists asked us for a really easy way to take stuff from Photoshop and bring it into the engine. He didn't want to have to line everything up himself, whatever. It was really kind of, I guess, making a drawing and really building it up. So that's where we came up with sheet manager there. So you can take any source image, it will pad it to hour or two, copy it over, put it right in the sheet, save it. It's now on your tile sheet, and it'll be ready to run.
So if this runs like crap, it runs on the Dreamcast. It's
That's the trump card for like other things.
It is, dude. Every one frame a second, it runs with the Dreamcast. I don't know what your problem is. Jesus. I did. Where's it trying to where would I see a little script crash? That's fantastic. Oh yeah, I did.
Is it because you're doing this on a Mac? Is that why it's messing up?
I'm willing to agree with that.
Probably,
I'm
yeah.
not-
This is my shrine level where like people just don't mess with this level. We all have like our own sandbox level where it's like knows that's where like secret evil crap happens. This is mine. That's kind of what I've been doing. So the thing that I've been doing is so we have like a Jesus Christ, a truly 3D world and all this stuff, and physics plays a big role in the game. But the physics engine itself is fundamentally 2D. The collision geometry itself is also 2D, and I'm trying to make it a full-fledged, three-dimensional physics engine using only 2D collision primitives, which is way cheaper to handle 3D. So there's no way we can do full 3D geometry. Okay, so what I was working on.
See, there's the mushroom.
You can't see my frame. It's my job. It's okay. So I can. What I was trying to do is I was working on some fancy effects. Like these are rigid bodies you can transfer. They all have like mass, moments of inertia, all that crap. Everything in the game is a simulated rigid body. And I was trying to make it where you can stand on them and like they resolve not only in two-dimensional space but in three-dimensional space. Oh yeah. So obviously, like I said, it's a 3D game. Various perspectives to prove it. So let me go back to the perspective. Oh Jesus. What I was working on last night is destroying these things. So if you can see it, you can take these, shatter them on each other. And what's actually happening here is you're able to give all these different entities different durability factors, coefficients of restitution, all that crap, so you can make different things shatterable. And when they shatter, I'm dynamically at runtime chopping it up and recalculating for every particle what the resultant mass, moment of inertia, and all that crap is from its parent proportionally, and then I'm recursively re-adding all that shit back into the physics engine. Which is why I was like, well, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. And all of those little particles themselves are fully 3D simulated things as well. And one of the cool things is obviously there's no way in hell the Dreamcast can support all these particles. So what I was doing last night, or no, probably this morning, if I remember, was when there's enough shit on screen, there's a magical number that's platform dependent where they just start fading out. Like on the PC, whatever, you can pull up on the screen, it doesn't care. Like on the Dreamcast, there will only be like a couple tiles before the particles start fading out. So, there's the lights. And oh yeah.
They even have a stall.
Check it out. Here's my own narcissism here. I included myself because it's my shrine. You want to fuck with my shrine? So,
Sure, yeah.
right.
These,
oh, here's omnidirectional shadow mapping. How many of these slides am I doing? Carry on. I just want one of the bump. Takes forever to compile to see it. Are there any questions, Will?
any questions, I guess, about
Yeah, please. Yeah. Okay.
What do you hope to have done by August 1?
we've got a pretty
Yeah.
big spoiler. One of our
Wait,
first
what is what? Oh,
we've got we wanted to have up to like the first, I guess, true boss of the game done. All the areas are going to be 100% complete. Obviously not all the quests and things like that are going to be in the game. But we wanted to be able to show off the diversity between the and show kind of the transition
Also like this page.
of gameplay to the really dark kind of dungeons that we're going to be doing. And then, like, I don't know if there's any Castlevania fan in the audience, we wanted like bigger than life bosses, all kinds of crazy
This
stuff.
is our first boss fight that we're no pixeling and where is it?
Oh, Donald?
Yeah. So what, the thing that's cool about this guy is that the ruins themselves are super dark. It's very like an ambient atmosphere. These are going to be dynamic lights with particles. He's going to be like this giant ass 3D guy, like moving his hands, where you're actually using the platforming mechanics in 3D, jumping around. I don't know if I mentioned that, but we have platforming mechanics like dash and jump to help give the combat a little more depth and action orientedness. So this will really bring everything together, and we wanted to pick up rocks and stuff, and you have to use the physics engine to throw boulders at him and stuff. So, and the boss fight for this dude is just so epic. He sampled the drums for Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Trying to find another picture for you guys. Anyway, I guess, any questions at all, or? What's up?
Can you say more about the plot of the game?
Sure. We'll read it off the website. I'm just kidding. It's kind of hard to. We're very careful not to give away too much. So basically, ES takes place in a world that is caught in constant conflict between magic and technology. Magic is bestowed upon people who are religious in this world. It's like a gift from God. It's like a symbol of faith. Whereas other people who are seen as heretics, people like scientists, scholars, they rely more on technology in their day-to-day lives. But then the world itself is littered with all these crazy ruins that no one understands why they're there. No one understands what the previous civilizations, why they were ruined or anything like that. And it's full of a lot of advanced technology. And a lot of the gameplay and a lot of the dungeons is you excavating these ruins, and you find yourself in the conflict rising between magic and technology, because you stumble upon something technological in these ruins that affects this balance. That's all I can say.
How about the logo? I mean, it's close to it.
It's also spoilers.
Okay, well, so Elysian Shadows, a lot of people ask about the name origin too, and the logo you're talking about, the moon. So in like Finnish folklore, Norse folklore, Greek even, they all mention Elysium. It's a metaphor for heaven, so to speak. It's a paradise. And our actual world of Elysian Shadows is named Asphodel, which is a flower that's commonly found in Elysium. But Elysian Shadows, like the darker side of paradise. What is it? It works outside.
It's a paradox. It's an intentional paradox, like the shadow of paradise, or the beauty is not all that it's cracked up to be. And even in the gameplay footage that we've shown off, like we've always tried to make it a point that the overworld is like lush and beautiful, and it's very diverse and very organic looking. But then we have screenshots from things like the ruins where it's like, whoa.
Sure.
Yeah, our musician is totally like, he's gonna watch this. He's totally gay for games like Resident Evil and
Silent Hill, everything.
He's very into survival horror games, and there's definitely some survival horror games.
That's actually what he's been pitching our game as. He's been doing some PR as well. He's been going to different, mostly just musical sites and things like that.
This was us playing. Oh God, it looks like crap. We have a dynamic light torch, and you can't really see, but there's a whole bunch of creepy ass people like surrounding you. So we're kind of playing around with some survival horror aspects of the ruins. Basically, the ruins are not as pretty and calm as above ground.
I'll find it.
You see a little bit. You see the teeth.
Over here, it's a lot better. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you see what I mean? That's us trying to do like a creepy kind of style in a 2D game. Tyler did the emissive dynamic lighting fire particles, which looked really badass in the game. That's totally a spoiler for Adventures in Game Development Chapter 27. No photography.
We were on the same code base and the same work schedule.
What is that?
It's the barrels. Force mask. You can kind of see the torch. The particles of the flame don't really stick to much of the light.
That's just the emissive.
You can kind of see what we were going for with that too. And like, when you go down in the ruins in these scary places, like you're gonna have just like a single source of light besides like maybe the glowing crystals or like the eyes of these robots or enemies and stuff that are glistening back at you from the light. So it's gonna be pretty creepy. He even put it up like that one horror demo level that like the way that he made the soundtracks loop, they're never the same twice. They don't really overlap perfectly. So you have like this kind of chaotic dissonance the whole time. It's freaky to listen to. So, any other questions?
So you got a Dreamcast release, you're gonna have good music for it.
Yes. Awesome.
Oh, absolutely. And
Wait,
fishing rod.
dude, okay, so I grew up going to the Dreamcast. I used to walk to, back when it was Rhino Games, just to buy like all these crazy Dreamcast peripherals. So when I was a kid, I made this program where it would just hold the Dreamcast Maple bus, which is the controller bus, and you play with the controller and it would show you how it's reading input. So I was able to figure out how like the light gun, the fishing rod, the Dreamcast maracas. I know how to develop for all of them because I've seen how they take input. You want to have like mini games, and the Dreamcast version was like, oh shit, better plug in my maracas with my light gun now. absolutely, BMU support, and we've talked about it, so I know it sounds crazy, but we're going to have a tool that lets you upload your save file from whatever platform you're in to the cloud and then convert it to whatever platform, so you're not stuck on any one platform. Because obviously you need to play on the Dreamcast for the BMU support. The BMU mini game with that 8-bit BMU assembly.
We've also talked about having like maybe some sort of epic item that you have to build, and to get all the parts you have to go to the system. Or a certain amount of system to get these parts, you're going to be able to find them. Right. You have to get it from the Dreamcast. Which sounds pretty good marketing. You got to buy them.
That was not the intention, but we would not forget. That's it. Cool. Well, thanks for listening, guys. Check us out at Adventures in Game Development or elysianshadows.com. We appreciate it.
Outstanding.